the Outdoor Drive Podcast.
All right, guys, welcome back to the show. This is Steve. We are not joined by Trev today because he is headfirst into the turkey woods. In podcast land, he's out on opening day of Connecticut, and we'll recap that later on. But in reality, he is over on the eastern shore of Maryland, where he did put down a bird, and there will be a Tales for the Tailgate coming for that soon. So you guys stay tuned for that. We'll keep the intro short and sweet, do a little housekeeping here, and make sure we thank our sponsors. We want to be sure to thank Novix Tree Stands, novixoutdoors.com, Zeus Broadheads, the only broadhead of the outdoor drive, and you can find that over at neweraarchery.com. Latitude Outdoors, if you want a sweet saddle setup, whether it's single panel, double panel, and there's some more things coming up soon, you need to head over to latitudeoutdoors.com and check them out. As always, it is knee-deep in turkey season. nor'eastergamecalls.com. If you have not gone over and picked up the new mouth calls, his experimental work is leading to birds hitting the dirt. These things are wonderful. I recommend you go get you a pack or two or three, as well as the pot calls and the Clear Killer line for the outdoor drive. Make sure you give him support. That's nor'eastergamecalls.com. Go give Mark a shout for us. Bow Fishing Magazine. Bow Fishing Magazine is going to work with us through the spring and summer to bring you all the news. Make sure you get online. That's bowfishingmagazine.com. It is an online magazine with the latest and greatest in the world of bow fishing. So check that out. Not a whole lot as far as notes and updates go. Not a lot to talk about. We do have some big things coming up that we aren't fully ready to disclose, so you guys stay tuned for that. Big changes coming for the show. Some new directions, some new opportunities, we will call them. And we hope they add and enhance your listening experience. Bow Hunting League's one-shot tournament is fixing to kick off. You guys need to get over there and look at the rules because week one is a little different than what they've normally done. It is a team event. So if you're going to participate, check it out now. Start finding your people and make sure you get involved there because it's a fun deal. No one wants to miss that. And with that being said, let's go ahead and bring Mike on. Let's hear what's going on in the world. Bringing you the news for the cruise is our good buddy Mike Salter. Take it away, Mike.
Hey everyone, let's start this one off in Rhode Island. Now, we're all aware that interest in hunting and trapping is declining nationally, and Rhode Island DEM is taking a step to increase interest in and diversity in hunting. The Department of Environmental Management has created a new position for hunter recruitment, retention, and reactivation specialist. This position will have a major focus on trying to reach out to groups of people who have never really had the opportunity, according to supervising wildlife biologist David Kolb. There is no requirement that the position be held by a hunter, but experience and awareness of the sport would help the position, and the position has been posted with an annual salary of $71,000. Kolb said DEM doesn't have a specific number of hunters they are trying to recruit, but it is more about increasing diversity. So a great opportunity for any hunter looking for a career change, but the deadline to apply is today, the 28th, so check out the posting on the Wildlife Management Institute website. Now to Florida, where the governor has announced this year's Gulf Red Snapper recreational season. The 2022 season will be the longest since the state assumed management of red snapper. There will be both a summer and a fall season, totaling 57 days. The summer season will run for 45 days from June 17th through July 31st. The 12-day fall season is the longest since state management began and includes October's 8th and 9th, 15th and 16th, 22nd and 23rd, and November 13th through the 11th through the 13th, and 25th through the 27th. So some increased fishing opportunities there in Florida. Now to Nebraska, where a public hearing is being held today by the Game and Parks Commission on recommendations for the 2022 antelope, deer, and elk hunting seasons. The following recommendations have been made for 2022. including the Pine Ridge Deer Management Unit into the Mule Deer Conservation Area, creating permit quotas on statewide whitetail buck and restricted statewide buck permits, creating a sales cap on non-resident either sex or buck-only permits for all permits except for landowner and youth, adjusting elk and antelope limited landowner permit quotas to 75% of the general permit quota to meet changes in the statutes, and there's some other minor revisions to meet management objectives. So if you have any comments on those changes, some substantial ones there, contact the commission as soon as possible. Now to California, and a big win for hunters, and particularly bear hunters in the state. On April 21st, the California Game and Fish Commission voted 4-0 to deny a petition from the Humane Society of the United States, which sought to eliminate bear hunting throughout the state. The Humane Society points to climate change, increased wildfires, habitat loss, and trophy hunting as the reasons for black bear population decline in the state, and use these claims in the petition, asserting that all black bear hunting should be brought to an immediate halt until the department can assess those threats and adjust its management protocol. Fortunately, sound statistical modeling provided by a California Department of Fish and Wildlife biologist dismantled nearly all those claims. An ecologist for the department stated there is no evidence of bear population decline in the state. Black bear numbers are stable, and hunter harvest had little to no adverse impact on species, and the species is thriving. Hunters who support the season also showed up in force to the commission meeting. Although a big win for the second year in a row in California, there is little hope that these petitions will not continue. Having a significant majority of testimony from supporters of the season helped defeat this petition, and this is the type of engagement we need to see in every state when there are anti-hunting, trapping, and fishing proposals. Now, lastly, another opportunity to support wild turkey management, this time in Michigan. The Michigan National Wild Turkey Federation and DNR have partnered to make available for purchase the 2022 Wild Turkey Management Cooperator Patch to commemorate your hunt. The patches are $6, but youth hunters 17 and younger can get the patches for free, which is a great bonus for those youth hunters. The patches can only be purchased online at minwtf.org. And proceeds from the patches will be used to fund wild turkey-related projects and management in Michigan. This is the second patch I've seen so far this year to raise funds for wildlife-specific proposals on turkeys, and I think this is awesome. Hopefully this will catch on in more states and for more species in the future. So as always, if you have any news to send along, it'd be greatly appreciated. Reach out to me at Mike Salter on Facebook or bearded_bowhunter21 on Instagram. And with that, enjoy the rest of your ride.
Much appreciated, Mike. As always, everybody, please send your news over to Mike. We want to keep track of everything going on in the world, and things like Virginia opening Sunday hunting, finally, after years of waiting. That will take effect next year. This fall's deer season, we'll say. So I'm excited for that, and I know a lot of the folks around here are. But let's make sure we let everybody know what's going on, because that kind of passed very obscurely. And without the news, how are you going to know? Moving on, we are joined by Chad and DA. DA you've had on the show. You've heard him. You got to know him. And he's a good laugh. He put us in contact with Chad from Backcountry Rookies. And we were able to just chop it up, talk shop, have a good time reminiscing about hunting out west, and really getting some overthought tips and tactics for someone who's never hunted out west. Maybe because you're a little intimidated, maybe because you're timid thinking about the physical exertion required, the way the tags draw, you don't want to waste the money. We go into just about all of that from a rookie's perspective, and that's where they come into this. So I highly recommend you guys go check out his show and follow along if you're interested. It's a great way to learn. So that being said, we're just going to roll right over to it.
One of the game wardens was talking to my buddy, and he says, yeah, man, my buddy shot a really nice 4x3 down there by the airfield. And the dude snapped and was like, you know who Chad Riker is? And just like that. And my buddy was like, I don't know. Do I know who he is? Kind of like, what's the problem? So apparently he had read the report, and people were pretty upset that deer was gone.
Okay, so there are that many people paying attention to this deer.
Yeah.
You shot the deer. Now you got to give us some context because you're live, you're recording.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so the context is I'll be 100% honest. There is not much story behind this hunt. So we were out and about, and apparently this deer normally hangs out in a unhuntable zone. There's several impact areas on the military base, and you weren't allowed to hunt in the impact zones, and the deer hangs out there frequently. Well, he just happened, me and my buddy we were getting his day pass to come on base, and we were driving back through, and that deer and his herd of does had come across the road into one of the huntable areas. And I got out of the truck and put a very short stock on him and put an arrow in him, and end of story. So people had literally been watching that deer for days, hoping that deer would move, and literally just luck would have it. We drove through that area and we're like, wow, that's a really nice buck right there.
That is like
so
the quintessential dream coos deer hunt.
This is a mule deer. He was a mule deer.
Oh, okay. I got you.
But still, in that part of Arizona, I really think the mule deer are harder to hunt than the coos deer, because the mule deer.
Yeah, try to put a stock on a desert muley. Good luck.
Yeah, right. So I never even recorded that story on my own podcast, because I was like, there is no point to this. People aren't going to believe that this story even happened, and it would have been a 30-second show.
But do you know what makes it more frustrating? Is I had just left 15 days of living in a tent by myself in negative temps at night, cold, windy snow during the day, putting long stalks in, and like the first hour he shoots a buck. Like, okay. I got you, Chad.
Like I said, that's the quintessential dream Southern Arizona hunt. Drive down the road, it crosses the road, you put a 20-minute stock on it, you're done.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen.
It literally happened that way too. And I had set up camp. My buddy meets us at camp. We say, okay, we're going to go grab your access pass. And we drove through base, got his pass. And on the way back through, we see this deer across the road from this area.
That is amazing.
So, yeah, well, and he's a great buck. I'm not upset about it at all. Not as nice as those ones behind DA's head back there.
Yeah, well, we all say that every time we see him. But before we get too deep into this, I figured I probably better introduce you. Guys, we're joined by Chad Riker of the, it's the Backcountry Rookies. We're going Western on this trip.
Whoa.
So do us a favor and give us a rundown on who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
Yeah, so Chad Riker, born and raised in Indiana. So I'm not totally one of those. Yeah, no, I don't go home much, right? But born and raised in Indiana, joined the military, and that took me all over the place. I spent the last several years in the Southwest United States, and that kind of got the bug for hunting. I whitetail hunted a little bit growing up here and there, with dad and stuff in Indiana, but I never really caught the bug so much. And then I eventually ended up in Texas, where I started kind of hunting mule deer on big Texas ranches. And I was very fortunate to have access to some ranches, and I really enjoyed hunting mule deer, but it just wasn't really challenging. I don't know if you've ever hunted Texas, or your listeners have ever hunted in Texas.
I haven't personally, because getting that access is pretty hard to come by.
Yeah. So I was really, really lucky. My wife's father-in-law, or my father-in-law is a ranch manager, and he manages a very, very large ranch with big deer.
Well, see, and that makes me like, we have like an internal joke on this show that if you're single and you're going to get married, it's going to be based on how many sections she can get you access to.
Yeah. So yeah, well, she got me access to a lot, so we were good.
You gamed the game right.
Yeah. So that bug kind of started then, was chasing mule deer and javelina and just kind of whatever around the ranches out there in Texas. But it wasn't really adventurous. There's not a lot of chase. It's more of those, like that hunting story I just told, where there's a deer over there and it's a short stalk, and maybe a kind of a long rifle shot.
Yeah,
you got
hanging out on the
deer.
Senderos.
Yeah, and you got yourself a deer. So there was definitely a need for more adventure. My military career was winding down, and my adventurous combat days were certainly over, and I was just really looking to fill a void that was missing. So insert Western hunting, and I took my first Colorado elk hunt and over-the-counter elk hunt, and that really started the Western hunting bug. I guess prior to that, I should introduce the Backcountry Rookies, where that came from.
Yeah, give us a rundown on your show real quick. And just so everyone knows, we do have air support on this show. DA is hiding out in the background. He's that third voice you keep hearing.
So I heard a rumor that there were going to be 2 Army guys doing a podcast, and I got really concerned. So I figured I would just jump on here and offer support.
So concerned he left his uniform on just to flex authority and air power.
To be active again.
Yeah, Backcountry Rookies came. I was deployed down in Central America, goofing off, and I was introduced to podcasts. I'd never listened to a podcast before, and I was introduced to those, and I thought, wow, these are really great way to gather or put out information. I thought it was pretty neat. And
I love how he said gather and then backed off.
Yeah. Well, for the podcaster, it's a great way to gather and talk to people and meet and network and do all of that. For the listener, it's a good way to also, I guess, gather intel or information. But shortly after I found out what a podcast was, I was watching some hunting shows on the YouTubes, and I traveled down that deep, dark hole of a place and ended up landing on some, it was a Randy Newberg show. And it was one of those that just happened to be how Randy was talking about Western access and how it's easier to hunt than what a lot of people think. And growing up in Indiana, I always thought the West was untouchable. Like, you had to have a guide and you needed all of this. Like, it just wasn't I didn't know anything about over the counter, and I didn't really know anything about public land. Indiana, you got to ask permission to even go pick mushrooms or something on somebody's property. It's not just easy walk in the woods. So I discovered this Randy Newberg video, and that got me kind of thinking about, well, elk hunting might be kind of a challenge, and it might be a fun way to burn off some energy from a deployment. So I decided to mash those two things together, and I started this. Being that I had no idea what I was doing in the West, I figured I would just be very open and honest about that. And I started the Backcountry Rookies, where we are pretty honest about not really knowing. I don't really try to fake the funk and tell people I'm this expert, right? I bring on experts and I talk to experts about how to hunt the West or elk, mule deer, whatever. And then sometimes I'll do random shows by myself too, but you'll never catch me claiming to be the guy that knows it all and the guy that has all the answers. I'm just a lucky guy that's got a platform and I'm able to share some information. So that's the background on Backcountry Rookies. It's been really, really fun for me to be involved. I get to meet guys like DA and yourself and all kinds of random people. I never thought I was going to be, ever in my life would I have thought I would be.
At the end of the day, at least we know we can blame DA.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
I don't know if you can hear that. Can you hear the fire alarm in my hotel?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to ignore that.
Let's see. You're in El Paso, right?
Yeah.
Nothing bad happens there. You're good.
No, that's actually what the phone call was a minute ago. It was the lady warning me. And in reverse, I warned her that if I was surprised enough, I might streak outside, just unaware, unannounced.
All right.
See me running around.
DA, you warned me that he was the warrant officer type. That right there just told me all I need to know. He is definitely the hold my beer, watch this shit kind of chief.
Yeah. And if I had the streak outside, there would be either a beer or a cup of coffee, depending on time of day. One of those two.
All right. We're going to get along just fine.
Yes, sir. I think we will. Anyway, that's the background, man. I appreciate you. Let me share that. I think it's pretty cool. I've always really enjoyed the Backcountry Rookies, and certainly I've really enjoyed getting into this Western hunting gig.
No, and that's a big part of it is out here on the East Coast. So backing up, coming from Arizona myself, I grew up with the opposite train of thought. You know, all I knew was public and access and mule deer and elk and all of that. And I moved to the East Coast, and it was the culture shock for me. Like, wait, I have to ask to go into those woods?
Yeah.
What is this magic? You know, it made no sense to me. So I feel your pain, only on the opposite spectrum. And I'm glad you're out there doing it that way, because as much as I love whitetail, turkey, East Coast, Midwest hunting, nothing compares to the Western woods. And DA sitting there shaking his head. I think he can agree, you know, after all this time in Florida and Oklahoma and Missouri and all these other crazy places he goes, I know he tends to cherish the Western side. So why don't you give us a little input more than absolutely, you know, let me know when you need to call for fire.
So I mean, you're hitting the nail on the head. There's something so special about going out west. The landscape, the sunrises, the sunsets. Even if I never saw an animal in some of these places, it is the most refreshing, re-motivating, re-energizing experiences that I ever have. Now add in the animals. Okay, I love big whitetail. I love small whitetail. Let me rephrase that. I love all whitetail. I love turkeys. I get excited over does, you name it. But when you've got a gigantic bull bugling just a couple yards away, even 100 yards away, the feeling that you get inside your body, you can't even recreate that. It is the most wonderful feeling in the world. Or taking it back to January when I went on this mule deer hunt, seeing your first 100 and I would say the biggest I saw 185, 190, seeing a buck that big. Oh my goodness. Those are the things that are going to be imprinted in my brain for the rest of my life, because it is just so unique and magical out there.
Oh, absolutely, man. And we never did get a really, at least on the show, catch up and talk about how that hunt went, but I'm sure we can dive into it here in a bit. But I kind of want to kick back just a little bit and let Chad give us a little bit more of his foundation now that he's there. And, you know, he still calls himself a rookie, but I don't think he can quite go that route anymore. You know, what are some of the things you've got to go do and enjoy? And where have you found your successes and failures?
Man, how much time you got?
I got all the time in the world, brother.
No, I think...
real quick, how long do we have air on station?
I'm here forever.
All right, we're
can't
good.
get rid of me.
I've never heard that in my life, so I'm happy.
I've got like 45 more minutes.
Yeah, you're good.
So when I first started this, I lived in Texas. So the real challenge, and I'll start with lessons learned, because I'm not very successful. So let's talk things I've done wrong. I think one of the real lessons learned was figuring out where to go, right? That's probably one of the hardest things, and narrowing it down state by state, not even that, unit by unit. And then to condense that even further is, you know, you see these units and you think, oh, that's not that big. Well,
units out west are bigger than states on the East Coast.
Right. They're bigger than states. And then if you've never really experienced the Rocky Mountains or hiking in some of those big, tall mountains, that's just another layer that you have to add on to that. Because you may think by just looking at an overhead map, I can cover so much ground in one day. In reality, you'll cover maybe 25% of what you think you will, because of the elevation gain and the elevation, not only the hiking elevation gain and the just, like I said, hiking around, but it depends on where you come from. I was coming from 800 feet in Texas, and my camp was set at 8,500 feet, and we were hiking up to like 10,500, and we were thinking we were just going to cover miles and miles a day. And reality, we covered like 3 in a day.
That's a very valid point to kick out, especially for folks over here on the East Coast. And I've had to explain this a few times is, you know, one, you got the elevation. And if you're not used to that elevation change, it's going to kick your butt till you climatize. And even then it's going to hurt.
Yeah.
But you have to think of it for in terms of someone who's certified scuba diving, when you do your navigation underwater, it's not left, right, up, down, front, back. It's, you have elevation, you're going up, you're going down. So that 2,000 yards, you thought you were going straight, but you were going up instead, turns into 800 yards at the same distance.
And then you think, oh, geez, how did I get all the way to the top of the water already? Right. You're snorkeling instead of scuba diving.
You went the same amount of time, but you only went 800 yards instead of 2,000. Well, that's what elevation in the mountains does. You look at it on the map and you say, as the crow flies, it's only a mile. But when you throw in that elevation, it may take you 3 miles of walking to make up that line of sight mile. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad you pointed that out. A lot of people don't realize that.
That was the first thing absolutely the first thing I learned. Fitness is a big part of the game, I think. I don't really like to overthink the fitness part of it. I see there's a bunch of different things, programs and stuff that you can get involved in. And I don't really buy into all of that. I just think if you're doing something and you're active at home, it's going to prepare you the best that you can be prepared for when you go. I live at 5,000 feet. And I hike in the mountains frequently, and it still sucks when I get to 10,000 feet.
Yes,
I don't care where you live. When you're hiking up a hill at 10,000 feet, it's still no fun. So all the preparedness there is, I think it's more of an expectation thing. And that goes back to that original statement of understand that going 10 miles deep, as a lot of people like to say, oh, we're going 10 miles deep and we're going to hunt out a tiny little tents and we're going ultra lightweight. You're probably not going to go 10 miles deep.
No.
You're probably going to go like 2. And then you're going to be tired and you're going to start thinking, regretting your decisions and thinking about home and all these other things. So,
yeah. And one piece of advice I will give to anybody that wants to go from low elevation out there and thinks they're going to go 5 miles deep. Before you do it, put a pack on, let's just ruck it out, say 25 pounds with your ultralight gear, and have someone drive 5 miles and go drop 100 pounds. And then you hike your ass out there, throw that in your bag and try to walk back.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really, really good idea.
It all sounds good and easy, but no one considers packing out until you've had to do it.
Yeah.
Then it becomes, oh shit, what was I thinking?
So here's another one too, and it has to do with preparedness. And it's, when's the last time you slept in a tent, right? Like I've talked to a lot of people who say, man, I thought this was going to be so easy, and I was going to go out and set up this tent in the middle of the woods, in the dark of the woods, in the mountains, and I was going to sleep comfortably for 5 days. And the reality is they haven't been in a tent since they were 12 years old and in Cub Scouts. And that's a whole new game when you're in the mountains and trees are falling because the wind is blowing and maybe you're in the middle of some storm. So I also always tell people, go to your local campground and set up, pay $15 for a spot for a couple of nights, turn off your cell phone so you can't talk to your wife, and try to camp there. And don't take your laptop, like remove all of the comforts and go to the campground and just see if you can do that.
Yep.
And if you struggle with that, then that mountain is going to be 10 times harder than that campground is.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's kind of funny because it's been a little while since I've gone out and done primitive camping like that, just because I will say, yes, everywhere we've gone on the East Coast, you feel spoiled. There's a campsite or a gym or something anywhere where you can just go stop, take a shower and clean up, go to Walmart. It's within an hour of you.
Yeah.
And we're talking places where you may drive 2 hours and not see a building.
Right.
So that's a very valid point that you bring up. If you can't live in your, whatever you're packing, in an urban campsite comfortably,
yeah.
You got another thing coming.
Yeah. And so Dan, DA there introduced me to probably one of the greatest pieces of gear that I've ever purchased. And that's my Kodiak canvas. And so we were hunting in New Mexico together, and DA had this great big tent, heater, table set up, food all over the place, Pop-Tarts galore, right? Just all kinds of food all over. And I was like, what is going on here? I'm not really used to this. And that whole base camp idea is the greatest thing ever. So, especially if you're in your first few years or you don't go out west every year, I think base camp is a fantastic option. I take one of those big canvas tents now. It's amazing. We were out turkey hunting. We were turkey hunting last year, this time last year. And the first day we were up there, we were up in the mountains of New Mexico. The first day we were out, it was 50 or 60 during the day, and then it got cold that night. And we woke up the next morning and there was like 6 inches of snow on the ground and all over the top of the tent. And if we would have been in the woods somewhere, life would have just sucked.
Would have been miserable.
Yeah. But instead we fired up the heater. We cooked some good breakfast and we had a really nice camp, and, it was really comfortable. So thanks, DA. You're a real lifesaver.
Hey, I'm here to help.
Yeah.
So I'm going to touch on something real quick. There is going to be a point here in this podcast. I was going to ask you to kind of like debunk some myths. So you think you're a gatherer. I'm actually the gatherer. And like, I think you're an awesome person and I love your show. And I think Steven and Trevor are awesome people and I love their show. So I'm just sitting there and it's like, man, I've got these two people who have really unique, great shows. They should get together. And so you're talking to an Eastern base, maybe Southeast, New England. That's the audience. So like a lot of time people want to go out west, but they don't know what to do or they get nervous. And I think there's a lot of myths that they're fed from social media that you're kind of debunking right now. And I want to just touch on those, and you're going to hit up more. So I'm going to bring them up. But so like the first things first, fitness. You're right. I agree. I don't think you have to be in this tip top mountain shape to go out there. I think you have to train. Every now and then I'll throw on my backpack with a little weight and I just grind. Staying physically active, that helps. But going out there, a lot of it is mindset. I think if you can maintain a good mindset, you're going to stay longer. You're going to be smarter. You're going to have more fun. You said something about going in 10 miles. Well, guess what? You don't have to go in 10 miles for your first hunt. Nope. You can base camp. I've killed multiple elk right off the side of the road, not from road hunting. But as
long as you're over the ditch.
But again, that's another myth. People think they have to go so far back. Well, what's interesting is, for years we've been preaching go far back. Well, you know what? The animals moved up because they know you're going back. So
exactly.
Hunt elk or deer where the deer or the elk are. Gear. You didn't really go into this one, but I kind of want to touch on this now. You're often fed as an Easterner. The only way you can do these elk hunts or these mule deer hunts is if you have the top of the line optics, the top of the line backpack, the top of the line camo. So really, it's almost like I have to pay $10,000 to go on my first hunt. No, get the stuff that you've got, get the cheap things, and just get out there. I don't need to explain this to all of y'all, but let me ask you this: did you guys just wake up as leaders?
Of course.
No.
I was born a warrant officer.
So like you got thrown into situations, whether you wanted to or not, and you had to learn and adapt and overcome, and you learned, experiences and qualities along the way, and you got better, and you were able to become a leader because of that. So many people get caught up on analysis or paralysis of doing it perfect the right time. Go out there from the West, go out to the East, and even if you fail, you're going to learn something great. So then the next time you go out there, you're even stronger, you're even better, you're closer to these animals. Like, don't be afraid to just go in and get a hunt under your belt, because you will not regret it.
Oh, 100%. And you brought up a great point with the gear. So I laugh and I kind of joke with a lot of people around here, because that's the thing. I'm going west. I've just ordered my $1,000 in Sitka. I've ordered my $500 backpack. I've paid this and that for this and that. I've got my $1,000 GPS, my $2,000 binoculars. And I turn and look, and you can't really see it in the camera, but I've got a velvet mule deer right here. Was my first mule deer with a bow. And I had a $20 Walmart camo long sleeve shirt and brown denim pants on with cowboy boots and a cheap bear bow with the old flight, the dangly sight, whatever they call that. And we went and drove and we spotted it out in the field and we moved tree to tree to tree and put the shot on the deer. And guess what? That's how we did it. It didn't cost me anything more than the license and the stuff I had laying in the house.
Yeah.
You know, it is possible.
Absolutely. So, I don't have any. So the gear that I bought when I was my first year, the only thing I think I have left from that original kit that I put together that I thought was going to be the one stop, like the do everything.
Yep.
I think the only thing I have left is my jet boil, my little cooking.
Okay, you can't go wrong with that. That is essential.
That's the only thing. All of the clothing, all of the backpacks, like literally everything it didn't work. I bought it because somebody on the socials said this is what I use and it's the best. And in reality, I bought all of that stuff, and then over the years now, I get a lot of influence from DA because the stuff I've been told. But no, I've been really fortunate and been able to try lots of different things. And I don't wear any of that stuff. I don't have any of that same stuff I had those first years, and just built a kit based on what works for me. You know, I think you just got to go. And that's the biggest thing. Yep. I tell people is you just got to go west. And another little hack or tip or a trick or whatever the kids are calling it these days is if you don't have them, so tags are expensive. A Colorado elk tag over the counter can be what are they, like $750 Go out with a couple of dudes, 3 or 4 guys, and let one guy buy the tag, or whoever's got the money for it. Or you can even use a different analogy where you say, maybe if you guys are building points as a group, one guy burns his points this year and the rest of the guy are buying the points. Because the reality of it is, if coming out from the East Coast, especially the Northeast, you're driving way far out, and you might have 5, 6, maybe 7 days on the mountain. And the reality of 4 dudes killing 4 elk in 7 days and packing them out and getting them to the truck is, I won't say it's impossible, but good freaking luck. That's doubtful that's going to happen. So, but if one guy has a tag in his pocket, maybe 2, think of the amount of experience that you get. You're calling, if you're out there for archery, you're working on calling skills, you're working on playing the wind, you're working on stalking on animals, finding beds. There's so many things that you can take away from just being in the mountain. Okay, so what if your buddy's the one that gets the rack on the wall? I promise you're going to get a freezer full of meat out of that deal at least. If you help pack it off the mountain, you're going to go home with something. And it may not be the antlers, but you got a lot of experience and you got a meat in the freezer, and it was freaking awesome because you just spent 7 days in the mountains.
Some of the absolute best times I ever had was having buddies call me and say, I've got a bull down in the bottom of the canyon. I need your help.
Yeah, right.
Just to go in there and be part of that experience with somebody, you're going to learn a lot because they're going to recap the hunt and you can see it as it happened, from them. I was behind that rock or that tree. Wind was this, I was this. And then you get in and you experience that physical exertion of the pack out and the camaraderie. When you're done packing a bull out of a canyon, you're going to love each other that much more.
Yeah.
So it's something that, yes, to your point, doesn't matter who has the tag. If you can get the opportunity to go experience it and just be involved, when you do get your tag, you're that much further ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. We did the first year that we went, everybody had a tag in their pocket. Nobody tagged out, of course. And if you tally that up, there was 3 of us, and that's $2,100, not including gas money from everybody and everything that goes along with it. And had just one guy had a tag in their pocket, it would have saved everybody a pile of money. We all would have had the same experience. So anyway, that's a little tip I like to tell people.
I think it's
over
great.
the 5 or so years of playing around in the mountains, I've been on a few hunts where I didn't have the tag and I went out and called or took pictures. Or last year, Dan's Gila hunt. Was that the first time that you got to hear my Sasquatch coyote duck call?
Oh,
that actually got a response
you left
from a
this
bull?
out.
So hold on. So this was absolutely amazing. So it's my buddy CJ, Chad, and I, and we're all out in the Gila, and we just dropped down into this little canyon. I think we saw a bull go down there. So sun's going down, and CJ and I start ripping bugles, and nothing. We're just ripping bugles. You know, we got a little bit more experience. Let me do my little air quotes. Well, Chad pulls out his bugle tube and his reed, and it's like, yee-haw, oink, oink, quack. And next thing you know, this bull pops off instantly. And it's like, you have got to be kidding me.
I think I scared the crap out of the bull as well. I literally
he got a shock bugle.
I think exactly. The bull thought the Sasquatch was coming through the mountain, full steam ahead with his pet turkey and his buddy the coyote. It was funny. It was really funny.
But honestly, like that's the stuff that like I will always remember. Like, cool. I love killing animals. But like it's the memories like that. Like we have so many stories. I think, Chad, we've probably been on 2 or 3 hunts.
I think so. Oh yeah.
CJ
this year we're going on a bunch.
Yeah. It's just
we're drawing all the tags.
We're usually laughing our asses off, making fools of each other, but we're doing it in the right places. As weird as it sounds, like we've had very serious life discussions up there. You know,
yep.
Not everything's magical and rainbows. Like, you know, so this is off topic, but sometimes people are struggling. Guess where the most vulnerable place you can be to have that talk and get to the root cause of some issues?
Right there in camp.
On the buddies, or on the mountain with your buddies, having fun.
Well, yeah, and again, this goes back to something we've touched on a lot in last week's episode with House on the Woods, you know, a veterans outdoor program and things like that. It in your guys' situation specifically, because of your backgrounds and the, we'll say the type of stuff you guys have gotten to participate in, makes it a place where you can really only have those kind of conversations with the guys in camp, because that's who you relate with. They understand.
Yep.
And you can just do that. So again, that goes back to the point that doesn't matter if you got the tag or not. If you're in camp, you're going to have a good time, and you may deal with some shit or be able to open up about some stuff that you can't anywhere else. Yeah. So why not do it?
Definitely. So, and it also sorts out people too, I think, like good hunting buddies versus not so good hunting buddies, guys that you know in the future you want to spend time on the mountain with. Going out and spending a week on the mountain with somebody that turns out to maybe they want to lay in camp all day and they don't want to hunt hard and they don't want to go hard. You're going to figure out really quick that that's not your style, and that's not the people that you want to hunt with. And I think me and Dan and me and DA and CJ have all kind of, we seem to hunt pretty well together. I guess we're all trying to draw tags together this year.
I mean, so if you guys all put in together, I guess they must not be that.
They want to let the rookie back in. Yeah. So, but you find out really who you hunt well with and how it goes and who does good together. And then over time, you kind of build those bonds, you know, and you end up with a hunting group or hunting buddies at that point.
Right.
So.
And that's a good recommendation too. You know, if you're sitting here and you want to go out west and you want to do it with a group of buddies, I go back to that mindset comment. Like, you probably know who can stick it out with you and who can't. This is not the place. You know, I love a good deer camp and, you know, staying up all night, having a couple drinks. But I'm also ready to go the next day. So, you know, if you've got that person who's going to tie one on and they're just going to be in bed until 10 o'clock, and, you know, stay in bed until 10 a.m., like, this is not the time. Like, we came out here to get stuff done. Or if that's what you want to do, then by all means, make sure that they align with your priorities for the trip.
Well, as long as everyone understands that, you know, you can tie one on, but it's going to be in celebration after the hunt. You know, a couple of drinks with your steak or whatever over dinner is fine, but, you know, we'll party when there's one on the ground and it's packed in.
Oh yeah. Last year we had, our elk pack outs were, God, that was rough, man. Both of us backed the truck up to the elk and loaded the quarters into the bed of the truck. On different days.
You are the luckiest Western hunter I think I've ever spoken with. You shoot a giant muley off the road.
It is talent.
You're quartering your elk right there on the road. I need to put in with you.
So, yeah, yes. So the funny thing about that was it was me, CJ, and Dan. We're all hunting again. Dan was off doing his own thing with turkeys, and CJ and I were out in a different area, and we put in over 9 miles up the mountains, down the mountains, around them a couple of times, back up, back
so 3
down,
miles.
everything. No, it was legit 9 miles. Like we were beat down.
I'm just
and it was the end
you.
of the day. It was the end of the day. We were walking back to the truck, and there was a big water hole about 400 yards away from the truck. We literally crested the hill, and there was a big bull and a cow right behind that bull. And as they started running, I had a cow tag, and as they started running, I shot the cow. She died right there by the water hole, and we drove the truck over there. But it took us 9 miles to get to that cow, even though she was right next to the truck. We could see the truck from where I shot the cow. How about that?
So ultimately, you got the full backcountry experience with the guided pack out service.
Yeah.
I mean,
why do I even own a backpack? I'm starting to question why I even own a backpack.
Don't sell it. The second you sell it, you're going to shoot something 10 miles in.
Yeah, that's how that works. But
then you call DA.
That's it. Yep. That's it. Hey, buddy, I need some help.
Hey, how hard would it be to get an Osprey back here for training?
I have tried so many times. I have buddies that fly them, and I'd be up in the top of New Mexico mountain like, hey, I'm 3 hours away. If you jet over here, hoist it down. We'll get some hoist training in, and I will get right out of here.
Right?
Could you imagine? Wouldn't that be?
That would be so great.
All the other hunters around there are like, what in the world? And then you see this bull going up in the air in the back of an airplane.
Well, that's how they do it in New Zealand.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
International training.
Yeah, perfect.
So, Chad, I got a question for you. With the shows you've been doing, the people you've been talking, both professional or experienced / on the rookie side, if you were to tell the listeners, what would you say is one of the easiest hunts to transition out west? Is it antelope? Is it mule deer?
You're way ahead of me. I have my thoughts on this one, but I want to hear yours first.
So I think antelope is a great way to transition, but you got to get the tag first. It's not easy, right? Because there's like New Mexico, as a New Mexico resident, my antelope, by the way, I drew an antelope tag last year too with like 2% draw odds, just so if you want to know about that.
Yeah. Again, chalk one up to the chief.
Yep. That's the warrant officer power.
Just gets everything he wants. Doesn't have any of the bad shit.
I didn't put any work in for that either. But so antelope is great. But as a resident, I had like 2%, which is a rifle tag. So archery, your odds are a little bit better. But it's really, really hard to draw. Now, there's other states. Wyoming's a little bit easier to draw. I think Colorado has better draw odds. Arizona, good freaking luck. That's not happening.
Tell me about it, even as a resident.
I think antelope is a very, very good way to go for a 3 to 4 day hunt, have a good time, very good chance of success. I'm not a huge bear hunter. I have a bear tag next weekend, and it's something I really want to shoot is a bear. But I've had a lot of people say that bear is a good way to transition too, because the fitness aspect of it isn't as bad as an elk, right? You're not covering miles and miles and miles and miles. You might hike in, find a good glassing spot, and then you sit there for a couple of hours and you glass, and then you move, and then you glass a little bit and you move. I've been told that that's a very, very good way to transition if you want to come out and hunt big game, but I don't know. I had a blast on my antelope hunt, and I know anybody that ever goes on an antelope hunt just loves it. So,
and I was 100% on the same page with you. My thought process was antelope. Again, I was going to say antelope in Wyoming because of the draw rates, and some of them you can get over the counter.
Yeah.
And you drive down the roads out there, interstates along public, and you can glass and spot antelope all day long.
Yep.
You know, so you kind of get that, oh, look, we got there. Look, we saw. You don't have that, you know, like you would with elk where you get out there and when I hunted 5 days and didn't see a thing. No, you're driving the road. You're seeing massive flocks. You're getting multiple stalks every day. You know, it's a really good way to kind of get you into that mentality to move you into the, okay, let's look at mule deer. Let's get on a high point and glass all day. Found one, move. Coos deer, same thing. You know, elk, the way I kind of look at elk is almost like that next step. You don't want to be your first step into the West as elk because you don't quite understand what it takes, the calling. You know, it's a little more complex, whereas deer, antelope, bear, you can sit, glass, spot, and then put your stock on. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, what didn't work? Why didn't it work? Go on to the next one.
Yep.
You know, so I agree with you there.
And deer and antelope are smaller, right? So if it's just you and a buddy, you're going to be able to get a deer out on your own, or
Right.
an antelope for sure. You can get an antelope out by yourself. An elk, not so much. You're not getting an elk out in one pack out. And if you do happen to be 5 miles in and 2 drainages over, man, you're on your own. And that's 4 pack outs or 4, you know, that's 4 trips.
Right. That's what I was going to say.
That's a lot of moving, man.
If you're trying to do this solo, you got to realize that at a minimum, that's 4 quarters, not counting the back straps, head and hide.
Yeah.
Plus neck meat, rib meat if you take it. You know, so
or if you're really cool, you can drag the live. They're not ready for this story. Chat.
I am.
You can. Okay, I'll try to make it quick. Brand new to hunting, no idea what I'm doing. 2014, I'm living in New Mexico, and I want to hunt. Okay, so I put in for elk, antelope, and mule deer. I'm over in Africa, and I'm in the green bean, just so you know, cranking down
buddy.
the Moabs and stuff like that. And I get this email, and it's New Mexico. You drew an elk tag. And I'm like, yeah. So I'm sitting there reading articles while I'm deployed, watching YouTube videos, doing all of this learning that I can, jumping into this head first. Fast forward, I get to New Mexico, opening day. I'm out there by myself, and I end up killing an elk. So I want you to just imagine this. I want you to imagine this for a second. So I'm on the side of the mountain by myself, just killed this elk, brand new hunter, don't know what's going on. Do you know what the one thing is that I didn't actually learn, research, or teach myself?
How to gut,
quarter, or pack out a dang animal.
So makes sense.
So
why do you need to know that?
Here I am fully juiced on adrenaline. Okay. No idea what I'm doing. So now I run back to my truck and I'm driving up and down the road trying to stop people. It's Labor Day weekend up there and there's people out there camping. Now I want you to imagine the 6'3" dude running into their camp. I got a sidearm on my bow in my hand. Like, guys, I just shot it out. Can you come help me pack this thing out? And they're like, get out of here.
Yep.
Who are you?
That's the wrong state.
I wasn't getting any help. So at the end of this, I go back to the elk. I drug the thing, full guts and everything, live weight, 600 yards to the road, okay, to a ditch. Now I back my truck in there, get a piece of rope, put together this lever and fulcrum thing, deadlift the elk into the back of the truck, ready, it gets better. I drive into town and I load 20 to 30 bags of ice over the thing because I knew I had to get it cold. And I ended up driving 3 hours back home. It's 2 a.m. I'm knocking on my buddy's door and I'm like, help me.
I'm crying for you, man.
Yeah.
That's a rough day. That's the summarized story, but hey, just in case you want to know, before you go out there, learn how to gut or quarter an animal.
Okay, so I'm proud of you for the fact that you went and did it.
Yeah.
However, I will forever, in the back of my head, chuckle, knowing that you were in that situation. You're not alone. I know 2 other guys who have done exactly that. They have shot deer, hauled them to their trucks, left them in the truck for a day, and then took them to a processor to get processed. And the processor went, we're not touching that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because, hey, they wanted to do it. They went out.
At least you did the ice pack.
Yeah, I'll give you credit. That's why I said, I'm proud of you. I'm happy for you. Hard lesson learned, man.
That's funny. I love that story.
To go with the antelope thing too, like, okay, so antelope typically has a better harvest rate. If you and your buddies head out to, let's say, Wyoming again, and you took a 5-day trip, if you work pretty hard, you could probably kill antelope in the first day or two. Take those other couple days and go to where the elk might be. Now you've got an opportunity to scout for the next time you come out there, or you're actually seeing, oh wow, that cliff that I'm looking at on these topo maps is way more extreme than I thought. Like, be strategic with these trips, because I agree with you. Antelope's the easiest way to get out there, but use that trip for your next trip and your next trip.
And that's why he's still active duty. He's smart enough to stick with the game.
Yep. Very, very good point. I think if you have the opportunity to go on a scouting trip, take that opportunity, call it a scouting trip if you want, call it familiarization if you want. I think if you go on a scouting trip in June to look for elk, you may find them, but they're not going to be there when you go back in September. They've moved on. They've gone somewhere else. But at least you know what the mountain looks like. You know what the areas look like. You're familiar with what elk in the mountain look like, the sounds that they make. There's so much that you can take away from a trip just to go and be in the mountain.
And adding to that, while you're out there, like you said, if you're there in June, they're not going to be there in September. But if you happen to stumble across a place where you may get lucky and pick up an elk shed or two, well, guess what? Now you know where they're wintering.
Yeah.
So you go for those late tags, you have a general idea where they're at. Just like whitetail, they tell you a story. This is where they're wintering. And you can assume based on that information, okay, earlier in the season when it's warm, they may be directly above here 2-3 miles. However that plays out, I think it's a very valid point.
Yeah, definitely. Not everybody has that opportunity, and I get that. But if you do, take advantage of it. Go out and do whatever. Play around in the mountains. If anything, just go try to climb them. And then when you go back in September, you're not surprised. Like my first September was, I looked up, I'd been in the Rockies before, but on nice groomed hiking trails, and there were a couple of mile trails.
It's not backcountry.
No, it wasn't like, hey, park the truck over here. We're diving off right there and we're climbing up that mountain over there. And once we get to the top of that, we're going to go over it and down into the bottom of what's on the other side. And then we may have to go up the next ridge and down that one too. And then that looks great on the map. And then when you get there, that ball game is totally different.
Well, hey, we can make it even more fun though. For anyone that goes out there and does do this, particularly in New Mexico in certain areas, if you happen to find a nice pair of binoculars laying on the ground, we will give you a reward.
Or a pair of Oakley sunglasses. I'm just saying those might be laying around out there too somewhere.
This is what happens when an Air Force guy tries to be like an Army sniper. I may have taken my bino harness off to prep for the perfect shot. And when I watched the elk fall, I got excited like I do. And I may have just left the binos out there on accident.
See, and that's why we use a spotter. I let someone call the shot. I just got to make it.
There you go. And that's how it's done.
Oh, that's awesome, though. But real quick, before we cut this off, I know we're running a little tight on time, but DA, you did get to go back out and finish up that, we'll call it late season hunt in New Mexico that we had discussed on the last show you were with us. How'd that go?
It was one of the best experiences I've had in a long time on so many levels. I've done solo trips before, but I think the max I've done was 9 days. This was 15 days of the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows. But again, like when we keep talking about mindset, you can apply this to realistically anything. But I was out there to kill a big deer. I haven't shot a mule deer yet. I have killed some whitetail. I have not killed a mule deer yet. And I am in one of the best New Mexico units as far as quality mule deer. And opening day, I'm passing 140, 150 high, 50 deer, because I see these 180-inch bruisers, or the one that I was absolutely obsessed with was a probably high 60s 3x3. The frame was just absolutely gigantic, but overall it was so good for me to do, because when you're battling rutting mature bucks, it's actually post rut, so they were actually starting to go back to their own little isolation holes in super cold weather with a bow in crunchy snow. Like, you have every single disadvantage, but when you do find those big bucks, or you do create those shot opportunities, which I missed too, let's not talk about that, it's rewarding on its own. That was the win. Seeing these majestic monsters, making it through the entire trip. Do you know how many people thought I was crazy because I was up there 15 days with pretty much no cell service, eating ramen noodles?
Oh, yeah.
I thought you were crazy.
I came back walking tall after that trip, I assure you.
Damn.
Yeah.
And you put a good burger in your belly.
You stopped for a great burger. But no, I mean,
it was a great burger.
Not every hunt is about being successful. We don't have to really dig into that too deep, because some people know, it's the experience that you get along the way. It's what you can learn about yourself, your recharge and stuff like that. I mean, I was 10 feet tall after that trip.
100%. And I'm glad you got to go out there and experience it, especially after the year you had. And I knew it was kind of a highlight of your season coming up when we spoke last. So I'm glad you got to go out there and do it. But as time winds down, Chad, we have one question that we ask everybody on the show. And I want to get your thoughts on it. And that is, what drives you outdoors?
I touched on that a little bit in the beginning, I think, when I was talking about the search for a new adventure. So I was always kind of into the outdoors, I guess, even before the military. I was a rock climber and always hiking and doing all kinds of stuff. But after being in the military for a while, I really needed something to kind of fill that gap from moving from combat arms into the intel world and different roles. That outdoors is what provides that adventure, without a doubt. I look forward to it now. Anytime I can get outside and play around in the mountains, I do. If I can take a vacation and be in the mountains, I'll take it. My wife's really good about that too. She loves to be outdoors. So whatever I can do to get out there and just enjoy it.
Nice, straight and easy. I like it.
Straight and easy. That's the way I do it.
See, that's like a very direct, straightforward answer.
That's the NCO coming out of me.
Yeah, I was going to say, because, a lot of the times you get the watered down officer version where it's got to sound political.
You want me to do the warrant officer where I grab the cup of coffee and I said, let me tell you about this one time. I've got a story for you. And 45 minutes from now, we'll be maybe getting to the point.
Exactly.
We're good.
Yeah.
I needed the adventure, man. I really did. There was a big void and there was a big gap that outdoors, the mountains just kind of took over and filled that void. So
I agree with you. And I think all three of us here kind of have that same feeling. I know DA's touched on it multiple times in our previous shows. It's just, it's the way to reconnect. You let all that stuff just fall away and you get back to the grassroots of what it is to be here.
Yep. I love it. I can't wait for the draw results to come out and to really start figuring out how this year is going to shake out. I drew this bear tag kind of randomly, so that one was a bit of a surprise. Now we're just waiting for New Mexico, and then Colorado, and maybe we'll see what Wyoming brings, if that happens or not. But
well, that's perfect. In
now's the
podcast,
busy season.
yeah, in podcast land, this will be coming out just after the draw. So hopefully we'll be able to give a little update on your guys' success in the intro. So make sure to let us know what you guys pulled off there.
All green.
All green. That fingers crossed. That's what we're doing. You know, I hope you pulled some strings and, you know, paid off the right people. You know, some aoudad tags, some ram tags, you know.
I'd take an aoudad tag. I shot an aoudad a few years ago in Texas, but that was ranch tag, you know.
Yeah, it's a little different than the New Mexico aoudad.
Yeah, I'd like to shoot a New Mexico one too. I'd like to get another one.
Well, our fingers are crossed that you guys pull all your tags. So
yeah.
Real quick, for everybody listening, Chad, where can they find you? Where can they find your podcast? And how can they follow along?
Backcountry Rookies is pretty much everything. So I just went through this reboot, refresh. I don't know what you want to call it. I had a couple of 100 episodes out there, and I switched it up. I switched my RSS feed, and I did a whole bunch of wonky stuff at the beginning of the year. And I'm kind of going through a process of re-uploading them now. So there isn't 200 shows, unfortunately. I've had several with DA that have been the best shows, right? Those were definitely the best shows. And but so those are gone, and they're kind of getting re-uploaded. But as I'm putting the old shows back up on the new RSS feed, there's also new content that's coming out every Wednesday. Lots of great stuff coming out. And like you said, now we're starting to, you know, New Mexico draw odds are going to be coming out. We're going to start that shift into the educational piece where we start talking about, okay, we drew tags. Now what do we do? What do we need to start doing? And how do we start preparing? And so there'll be some really good mule deer content coming out. There's going to be some really good elk content coming out, and just some cool stuff coming up over the next few months.
Perfect.
Backcountry Rookies, everything. Long answer or short answer. Backcountry Rookies will find everything. There's a website, there's Instagram, there's kind of a YouTube. We're out there. Just search it, Backcountry Rookies.
Too easy.
And Chad will play it off like he's just this amateur, but he just got picked up by a very awesome, I'll call it an educational platform, specifically geared towards out west. They do a lot of stuff with like draw odds, research articles. They saw the value in Chad's show because, again, people who want to teach and provide value to others, they're awesome. That's why I like you guys, Steven. I like people who care about their actual customers and their users. So, yeah, Chad just signed on with this awesome group of people, and don't let him fool you. He does a great show.
Well, I like the way that cliffhanger sets it there. I think what we'll do is make everybody listening go over to his show and check out the next few weeks to get that update as well as his draw odds. So we won't release them here. You'll have to go over and catch them there.
There you go. Come over, check out the Backcountry Rookies, and find out more.
Absolutely. You know where to go, and you need to follow along with both of them. Don't forget about the Bow Hunting League's One Shot will be starting up soon. Prep for that, and if you have questions, make sure to blow up DA's phone and make sure he gives you all the details and pretend you didn't know from the website or from Facebook and tell him I sent you. And until then, guys, we want to thank you for taking the ride right here on the Outdoor Drive.